Thank you very much. Well, that one's live here, I'll tell you. Matt, thank you so much. Actually, Matt wanted to tell you that I was focused on healthcare, Coca-Cola, healthcare, Coca-Cola, healthcare, Coca-Cola. Is that right? Something like that. Well, it's an honor to be with you tonight, and thank you all for giving us this great forum to talk about transportation, which is so important. I told someone when I was walking up earlier, I said, I hope I've got enough energy left to muster up one more speech. And they said, well, don't make a speech, just kind of, have an informal discussion about the issue at hand. And, as Matt was introducing me, he made comments about me being elected the first Republican lieutenant governor in the history of Georgia. And I will tell you that making history is very, very exciting, but the chance to write history is what motivates me the most. And when we talk about transportation, healthcare, education, the challenges that our state faces, that's really where our legacy will be made. And it's a joy to be here to discuss those items with you. And I started out on this journey early on as a senator for 12 years, and then I decided that I would run for lieutenant governor with a lot of folks encouraging me. But it was kind of interesting because people began to say, Casey, have you lost your ever-loving mind running for lieutenant governor because you're running against a guy who's been on the cover of Time magazine, for goodness sakes? Well, I will tell you, I didn't think a whole lot about it because I'd been an underdog all my life. But a guy walks up to me while I was down in Brunswick, Georgia, getting ready to make a speech. And he says, I'm here to cover your race and I want to interview you. And I said, great, where are you from? He said, Rolling Stone magazine. I thought, hallelujah, my time's finally come, I'd take Rolling Stone over Time magazine any day of the week. We didn't make it on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. I think we may have made it on the cover of the Catoosa Gazette, but what a great journey it has been. And, one of the roles that I play is the presiding officer of the state senate. And in that role, of course, we're very familiar with it because we've been in the Senate for 12 years. But really, the one thing that I witnessed as I traveled all over Georgia is that people were tired of partisan bickering and never getting anything accomplished at the end of the day. And so I set out to do something a little bit unique in politics today, and that is to respect every state senator and understand that that senator is elected by their peers, whether they're Democrat or Republican. They are elected to have their voice heard. And I, as the presiding officer, can't afford that opportunity. And I am convinced that when people have a bite at the apple, they have an opportunity to express their view. Whether you agree or disagree, they have input. That at the end of the day, we're going to be able to build consensus around whatever ideas come to the forefront. And through that consensus, we're able to lead our state to a better place. And I'm confident that not only did we do that this year, but we're going to be able to do it in years ahead. But the other objective that I had was to be an ally to the governor. As the number 2 guy in state government, in the executive branch, there to have to take over if something occurred to the governor, it's important that I work very closely with him. And I went to the governor and I said, Governor, I want to help you. I want to be an ally and support the issues that are important to you and important to Georgia. And I said, but now, please understand, that doesn't mean that we're going to always agree. And he looked at me and he said, well, Casey, you need to decide if you want to be right or if you want to be happy. He really didn't say that. I thought maybe some of y'all were going to sleep on me. But working with the governor has been a real joy. And I will tell you that, on a side note, the governor is a person who cares deeply about the state. And as many of you know, we've been in the situation of dealing with our water crisis in our state. And I was in a very high-level meeting that had really national leaders as well as top people from the Corps as well as Game and Fish. And we sat down and we negotiated through a lot of details. And we got to the end of that negotiation. Things were going very, very well for us. and we really were getting much further than any of us had anticipated. I was ready to announce it to the world. Let's get out there and let's talk about these great accomplishments. And the governor turned to me and he said, Casey, not now. He said, it wouldn't be right of me to announce this without the other governors having a chance to have heard the news. And it spoke of a man's character. And I will tell you that the courage that he exhibits, the conviction and the character that I witness each and every day is something that all of Georgia needs to be proud of. And I will tell you that we are positioned in Georgia to do a lot of great things. And as I travel all over this great state, I continue to be encouraged and excited about all that we've done in Georgia. We truly are the capital of the South. There is no other state in the South that even comes close to where we are. You look at the Fortune 500 companies that we house here in Georgia. You look at Coca-Cola as a prime example. You look at our research institutions where discoveries are being made each and every day that have business models that will be the next generation of businesses that will shape our future in Georgia. You look at the engines that fuel our economy, like the ports. The fastest growing ports in the nation is right here in Georgia. You look at Hartsville Airport, the fact that no matter where you go in the world, if you want to be connected to the American marketplace, you are within 2 hours from Atlanta Hartsville Airport. Now, I'm going to tell you, that creates enormous opportunities for our great state. You look at the fact that we lead the nation in workforce development. Our technical colleges are partnering with business in Quick Start, making sure that the new opportunities that come our way, we're equipped and ready to meet their needs to ensure success. You know, that's what a state needs to be about. I tell people that jobs is how people experience the American dream. Government doesn't create those jobs, but government creates the right circumstances and the right environment by which those jobs can be created. That's what our desire is to create a pro-jobs culture throughout all of state government to where hopes and dreams are made alive in this great state of ours. And I'm telling you, we're going to make that happen. But we've got a few challenging areas. We addressed education this year, and it's an ongoing challenge to prepare our kids to get out of the mindset of a one-size-fits-all model, but design an educational curriculum around the needs of the individual student. And I'm convinced if we'll stay on that path, we will have true educational excellence. But it's not just about education and economic development, it's also about health care. The fact that we have 1.7 million people in Georgia today that are uninsured. And that uninsured population is having a huge impact of the cost relative to health care today. We've got to address that. We're bringing 2 initiatives this year that is going to do that. But we also have another very large Achilles heel that we're going to talk about tonight. And that is that Metro Atlanta is the second worst congestion problem in the country. Now, I will tell you, that's a statistic that none of us are proud of. We all have witnessed firsthand the headlines to where businesses have chosen not to locate here in Georgia in Metro because of this problem. We cannot turn our head to the issue. We have to address it, and we have to address it head on. There will be many that will articulate that the way you solve transportation is to throw more money at the issue. I will submit to you that having more money is part of the solution, but it is not ultimately the solution. If you look today, we're spending more money on transportation than we ever have in the history of Georgia. Today, we're spending, in many cases, more money on right-of-way acquisition than we are in road construction. I will tell you, we're not embracing innovation. We're not thinking outside the box. We have a transportation system that has been operating the same way, doing the same things for decades. There has been no innovation. You look at other states. You look at Virginia. You look at Texas. Why is it that Virginia can take and convert lanes in peak times in interstates to allow additional capacity? When I came in from Gainesville this morning, in southbound lanes, it was totally congested. But as I looked across the median, I found a lot of congestion-free lanes. We haven't embraced any technology to meet the needs in the peak times like moving those lanes. The other thing we've not done is we've not taken the ability to partner with public-private partnerships and initiatives to explore the opportunity for real managed lane capacities. I believe that you can add additional lanes to our interstates today through a toll capacity that will allow us to have a revenue stream but also additional capacity that meets the market-based solutions that we're looking for. That's a generator, a revenue generator. I also believe that we can take and look at design-build concepts. Why is it that in every aspect of construction, we look to design-build approaches, but not in transportation? I will tell you that there's a perfect illustration that occurred right here in Georgia that I think illustrates the point of how we can see additional savings with a design-build. I believe at the end of the day that we can build the roads that we need, and we can probably do 30% more with the amount of revenue that we currently have today. And I'll illustrate the point. Hartsville Airport decided to do a fifth runway. They did what every other agency does, and that is to go to the Department of Transportation. Give us a design, give us a price on building this fifth runway. At the end of the day, they came back from the Department of Transportation with a $220 million estimated cost for construction. Hartsville said, that's not satisfactory. We need to go to the market. We need to find additional savings by the industry to find a way to do this in a more cost-effective way. They put it out as an RFP, and at the end of the day, they saved $70 million on the construction, and it was completed 45 days sooner than had been anticipated. Now, I'm going to tell you, if Hartsville Airport can do it, we can do it. We just commissioned an audit of the Department of Transportation. And as we began to analyze that audit, we have found enormous holes to where best practices are not being delivered within that department. We believe that we can take and reform the department with a new commissioner, and we have that opportunity now, that is educated, that understands the best practice component of construction, and implement those strategies into the workplace there with the department. Looking at public-private partnerships is very, very critical. And we're going to be committed under the new leadership to ensure that that does happen. But at the end of the day, what we have to have is we have to have a traffic management plan, which does not exist within our state today. And until we have that plan, until we understand where real relief can occur, and then put a funding model along with a plan of construction in place, we're not going to see the real relief that's needed. And I'm convinced as we begin through this dialogue with the new commissioner and the department that we're going to be able to find real synergy within new ideas and the talent that is around us to get us to the place that we need, and that is real congestion relief. Now, many people will say that transit is a big part of this solution, and I will tell you that none of us need to rule that out. I believe very strongly that having rapid rail systems in place can be a huge benefit to our state and particularly to Metro Atlanta, and the ability to connect other communities to this great engine that we have that we call Atlanta. But we have to approach this from a sound fiscal standpoint, and we have to also recognize that Atlanta, as dense as we may think it is, we do not have the density that would be required to financially support a transit system that would require the infrastructure dollars to be in place. Those processes continue to be explored, and I am very much in favor of that. I do think that much of the bus routes that we have had and the expansion of those have great opportunities. And we have demonstrated a cost method that does make sense, that can alleviate some element of congestion, and we will continue to be committed to that. I also believe that we need to have more consolidation relative to the transportation plan as it is developed. We have a lot of agencies right now that have their finger in the pie, and there's no real effort to bring everyone together to pull in the same direction. We will be seeking real solutions to that as we move into the upcoming session. The last thing that I would address is that certainly we all know the cost associated with congestion, and we know that it has a health component as well. It is very important that we try to alleviate that congestion and have an effort to try to do all we can, from carpooling to getting more people out of the congestion that exists within our state. And there are a whole host of ways to do it, and we know the connection to health and the importance of that. I tell people often that I've been blessed to be the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Georgia. And every day that I wake up, I thank the good Lord above that I've been charged and given the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of Georgians. And I learned early on in life that life is really not about self. Life is about service and service to others. And when we commit ourselves to that act of service, that's when we truly find the greatness that this world has to offer. We have some of the greatest talent, the greatest ability within our city and within our state. And if we will be united to find real solutions to the real challenges that we face, I'm convinced that we will ensure that Georgia is even better for generations to come. Thank you very much. Questions?
We have time for some questions, and Lieutenant Governor would certainly like to, as he said, have dialogue. So let's hear any thoughts, comments, questions you'd like to ask. When you raise your hand, can you also identify yourself? So.
I'm not familiar with the plan and what they put in place there in New Mexico. I'd be very interested to learn more about it. I can tell you from our studies, okay, that we have embarked upon here in Georgia, it's pretty clear that it would require an enormous amount of subsidy at the state level to ensure that those rails be put in place. We do have water, and that's a perfect example of what we have.
Well, just one follow-up question, very quickly. It would cost less than $50 million to extend the proposed Lovejoy rail line all the way to the river, and that compares to $4 billion they're talking about for I-75 northwest of the city. In that sense, I don't really see the tremendous cost.
Well, what I will tell you is that the Lovejoy line is a far more expensive line than $50 million. I've not heard that number. I'd like to look at that proposal, and as I said, I will tell you that I am perfectly comfortable with exploring all rail lines, okay? But there has to be a cost justification associated with that. If your numbers are correct and the ridership will substantiate that type of revenue stream, then I think we need to explore it. Casey, yeah, you can send it to our office.
Where's Matt?
I will say that, hopefully in the Senate you've had fair debate on every issue. It's one of the processes that we have been very strong on, and we put a lot of emphasis on the chairs having discretion over specific issues. I try not to interfere with that committee process as Lieutenant Governor and allow the free exchange of ideas and that debate to ensue. I will tell you that the red light cameras and other methods such as that have been huge revenue generators for a lot of jurisdictions. And we have, I think the jury is still out on the existing ability to continue down that path, but also any further expansion relative to making the case that in the name of safety, you're able to curb that dangerous scenario through the use of the revenue generator of the cameras. I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, we have law enforcement officers that are out there patrolling, okay, and they obviously have the ability to ticket you. The issue with a camera is that nothing is subjective at that point. It's a hard, fast rule. And as simple as that may sound, it's not that simple, because oftentimes people have received those tickets because they've taken a right-hand turn, which is legal under the law, okay? There's no discretion as you are approaching that light and you're about to reach the stop, the white line. You don't know how long that yellow light is going to stay yellow, okay? How many times have all of us as drivers been in that scenario? Now, there's one or two things you can do. You can slam on your brakes to come up to that white line and risk being reared in the back, or you can potentially go on through it. If you really want to do something in the name of safety, it's not relative to a revenue generator. It's about making sure that lights are synchronized in a way that promotes safety. And I will tell you that there's a lot of statistics that are out there that would question that at this point.
Lee Morris. As you may know, I served on the Greta board for a while, and so I'm very familiar with this multi-agency thing that we deal with here in the region and all the players. So I was intrigued by your comments about possibly streamlining all this, and in that connection, a lot of the Greta board members, former business folks, don't understand why it takes 10 years, 20 years, concept to opening a project, whether it's a road or a sidewalk or anything else. And many times, of course, projects are designed and put on a shelf and never built, and that's frustrating as well. So without maybe letting any cat
CERTA, we have Greta, we have ARC, we have the department, and those interests are important interests. And I believe that that we have to have the input associated with implementing a plan. But we probably need some streamlining to occur. Now, how that is fleshed out at the end of the day will occur probably a little closer to January. But there's a lot of discussion right now going into trying to streamline the process to ensure that projects of high priority get to the forefront in an expeditious way.
And Ms. Mockler, I'm Transportation Director. I have a question. You mentioned a lot of organizations which have their finger in the pie, as you said, and one of them was created to help with the RT issue some years ago, Greta. I was just wondering, how was this organization was doing, and did they leave to the goals which were set up for them to do, or it just became another bureaucracy?
Well, I'm asking some tough questions here. I'm fully prepared. But, well, I will tell you that Greta has done obviously a lot of good work. And their work consists of trying to organize more of the planning process as well as the transit. And we have experienced a lot of benefit from the buses. And in this process, with their board, they've put forth some very good plans, and they've tried to organize, particularly in the metropolitan area, a very good priority list, and in trying to get everyone to operate off of that. But again, I think that we have put ourselves in the classic bureaucratic maze scenario, to where we do have too many people trying to sign off on projects, and that's part of my concern. And getting back to Lee's question, we hope to find some resolve to that issue as we move forward into the legislative session.
We got time for one more question, Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Baldwin from the Atlanta Food Bank. My question, and I'm an active participant in the Civic League, these issues are complex. If they weren't, we would have figured them out already. And it takes political leadership, and it certainly takes the investment of the business community. I wonder what you as a political leader would suggest to us as citizens, as members of the Civic League. What role can we play? It's not a political role, it's not a business role, but it's kind of the third leg of the stool. What role can we play to help you get to the same goals? I think we would all agree. We want a better community, a stronger community. We want to get decisions made around some of these stubborn issues. Thank you.
I think, Bill, that's a great question and a good one to end on. What I would say is that your voice does matter, and in this process, it is critical that the legislative body, the decision makers, hear from you, and I think that you need to articulate where problems exist and demand real solutions to fit those problems. You are right. It is complex, but oftentimes bureaucracy makes it complex, because that bureaucracy exists for them to kind of acerbate this whole dilemma of justifying their very existence. And that becomes very problematic. And as a business person and as a business-minded individual, it becomes, very aggravating. And my challenge is to try to simplify sometimes overly simplify the issue. I don't understand what's so complex about saying, I need to build this road. That's a pretty simple thing, right? But unfortunately, by saying, I want to build this road, you would not believe how many hands and how many bureaucracies that building this road has to touch. And more importantly, it's not going to be designed once or twice. It's probably going to be designed 3 or 4 times. And that is what we have become. That's what we have grown into. And as bizarre as that is to you and I, it's normal activity for many of those that are in the department. Now, I think we have great people that are very capable, but we have to change the bureaucracy. We have to change the expectation. And it's almost like turning a big ship. If I was up on Lake Lanier, which I wouldn't want to be up there right now, as low as it is, but if I was on a jet ski, a little nimble, small jet ski, I could turn it on a dime. But state government is like a big, big ship. And you can't turn it on a dime. And you've got to continue to keep turning it in the right direction to where that change will occur. And that becomes very difficult. And oftentimes it's more of an art than it is a science. But I'm convinced with the right leadership, with the right expectations, and the reason you are important is because you are citizens that live in this community that elected officials are accountable to. And if they hear the outcry of the citizenry that we will not continue to accept these types of outcomes, we need change and we're going to hold you accountable to it, then change will occur. But until that sense of urgency exists, people are willing to just move it into another category and focus on something that's more urgent. And it's the same thing about water. There are those that would say that we are in this problem today over water because of unbridled growth. Isn't that right, Sierra Club member? and I love the Sierra Club, and I respect them. But, science doesn't back that argument up. And so we've got to ensure that when we go down these paths, that we have to put best practices in place, and that we have to understand what our objective at the end of the day is, and that's to continue to see Georgia thrive and be successful. Because my kids, your grandkids need a place that they can work, they can raise their family, and all the things that we dream about and that we say we want, we have the opportunity to impact that change. And so your voice and you standing up and holding your elected officials accountable is very critical. So I encourage you to do that. It's been a joy to be with you tonight. Thank you so much.